once it's realized that fighting is going to take place, then we need to take a look at the regional advantages of the North and the South. At this point, we're not really concerned too much about the West. There's going to be fighting out West, but we're really going to consider the North and the South as like the two parties involved here. The Union, which I'm going to call the United States, and the Confederacy, which we will call the States in Rebellion, are going to be competing, and we need to understand what what their strengths and weaknesses are. The very blunt way of looking at this is to take a look first at their population, right? Especially their fighting population. And the fighting population goes to the North. And at this point, when the war starts, we're talking about the white population, right? Because those are the people that are able to join the army. After the Emancipation Proclamation, then the black population in the North, the freed black population, is going to be allowed to join the military as well, which only adds to their numbers. At one point in the Confederacy, about 80% of all eligible people were going to be participating in the war. We can also look at industry. Industry is important because that means more weapons being produced, more food being produced, clothing, all of the things that you need to make an army run that you don't necessarily think about. Industry is all located up in the North. The North is going to have a transportation advantage as well because all of the railroad tracks are up in the North going into the West. The steamboats are all going to be controlled by the North as well. So transportation, communications, industry, those are all advantages that the North has in this fight. The Union, the United States, also controls almost all of the naval ships too. So the North has an indefinite advantage because they have a Navy, and that's going to factor into their main strategy, which we'll talk about soon with the Anaconda Plan. Now, the one advantage that the Southerners do have is they can just fight a defensive war. They're going to take a plan similar to what Washington used during the American Revolution, where they only have to make sure that the war keeps going on. They're going to fight a war of attrition. The North has to come to them. That stretches off supply lines. They can hit and run. They can use their tactical advantages in the South. Oftentimes, we like to consider the South as having a military leadership advantage. There's some evidence to this, but it kind of falls apart towards the end of the war. But we do know that this North definitely has a political leadership advantage. Partially that's because of Lincoln, who's able to keep the Union together in spite of the difficult times ahead, but also because the Constitution allows Lincoln to take measures that the Southern Constitution, that Confederate Constitution, didn't. For example, Lincoln is able to use federal authority, whereas the Confederate Constitution tried to really push that idea of states' rights, and each one of the states is going to not want to do the same thing, and that makes fighting the war difficult.